Okay, we're back here on Getting the Record Straight, talking with J. Michael Harrison of WRTI and The Bridge. And Jay was really expounding and getting in depth, actually, with the intersectionality of hip hop and bebop. So why don't you continue, Jay?
Yeah, so again, I think there's a lot of parallels when you look at jazz and you look at hip hop culture and rap music. Locally, there's been some wonderful projects over the years that have touched on that type of, as I said, that type of intermingling, and I think it's still there today. I mean, you look at generations that have come up listening to rap music. It's the soundtrack of their life.
Yep.
And you end up with artists like Soweto Kench, out of the UK, who's solid as a rapper, witty as could be, but also very gifted as a saxophonist. But you also look at the success of the Robert Glasper's, and you look at the Anderson Paaks, and you look at some of these folks that are bringing those worlds together. Still today, and Kendrick Lamar connecting with Kamasi Washington and the West Coast Get Down crew. You see a lot of elements of jazz connecting with elements of hip hop culture and rap music. So it's still, something that goes strong today, and I think will probably go strong for a continuous period of time.
Yeah, I know when I was doing the book, there was a lot I didn't know, still don't know, particularly with regard to hip hop. And I had a guy who was, he's about 20 years my junior, and but he taught at Temple. He taught English, and he was the first one who introduced me to the term crate diggers. And when I started looking into that, I found out that a lot of these guys, these hip hop producers and guys who are behind the scenes, I mean, they know that stuff. They know their jazz. They spend, hours and hours going through records and old records and listening to stuff and sampling it. And I was just amazed because there's several, I think there may be even a video, a YouTube station channel that's kind of devoted to that. And I know I watched a show one time, and I was just amazed at how knowledgeable some of these guys were. They knew Ahmad Jamal and you name it, they were on it, man.
Oh yeah, I mean some of the fattest beats from rap music. So, I mean look at A Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah.
Where they've actually had Ron Carter. On one of their projects. So if you look at again some of the groups, and I would be remiss not to mention the Roots.
Yeah, sure.
The work that they've done with jazz musicians over the years, and I go back to Jamaluddin Tacuma. I remember one of his records where Questlove and Black Thought are on that project. But the Roots have always brought jazz musicians into their world. And, the great Rich Nichols, who has a background here at WRTI and was their manager as well.
That's the brother who passed away.
Yeah, rest in peace, the great Rich Nichols. But if you look at, again, he was here at WRTI, but he ends up being the manager of the Roots.
Yeah.
And he brings in, folks like Hub, as well, who had both a classical and jazz background, to hook up with somebody as incredible as, Questlove and, the wordsmith Tariq, and that core, Scott Storch, and, the early days and what have you. There was right there, when you look at that model, here's a hip hop band, rap band that connects with a veteran of WRTI in the jazz world as a manager.
Yeah.
So there it is, right there.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's the whole structure, really. I had Ursula Rucker on last week,
My
and
girl.
yeah, I'm sure, absolutely, she's fantastic. She really is. And one of the things we were talking about, and I wanted to kind of share with you, see what get your thoughts. Is just Philly is just so fertile, man, when it comes to art and music and talent. And I always lament. I'm always frustrated that we don't promote it, we don't exploit it in a positive sense. And really, it's kind of like we just don't know what we have and therefore what to do with it. And it's so bothersome that, notwithstanding what you're doing and what RTI is doing, what I try to do, what KDU, with Al and, is doing over there. But, that a group like the Roots gets so little airtime on commercial radio, black commercial radio, if you will. And just, one of the things I said to Ursula, I asked her, what do you, how are you received overseas? And she's like, I make my living, it's going, elsewhere outside the country and obviously outside of Philly. But how do what's your take on that in terms of the Philadelphia music scene, art scene, and, why is it we don't seem to get it? Everybody else gets it.
Well, I think that's it. In a nutshell. But before I go there, again, shouts out to Ursula Rucker.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a fan forever. Had a chance to meet her when her first son was born many years ago. But also just amazed to see her ascension and how she continues to develop her craft.
Yes.
So she's a special talent.
Amazing.
Amongst a city of gifted artists. But I think you kind of summed it up. We don't necessarily see it. I think we take it for granted. I think sometimes we expect it to come from somewhere else and walk right past it, not realizing how significant the talent is. It's kind of like in the family. Sometimes the family may look at you like, oh, that's just Rob. You know what I mean? But there's a world out there that may go, no, that boy is bad. So I think there's some of that goes on. We take Philadelphia in general for granted. There's I think a little bit of a chip on our shoulder for many of us being between New York and DC. And unfortunately for many, they've had to go off to New York to really find success, or across the pond to find success, when there is so much. And what I noticed maybe about 25, 26 years ago, I met someone who had recently moved to Philadelphia from New York. And I got a chance to kind of see Philadelphia through her eyes. Because I was kind of wondering, well, why did you leave New York to come to Philly? And she said, oh, I love the music in Philly, from Frankie Beverly to Hall and Oates, John Coltrane. She's like, the architecture is insane. I'm looking at these buildings and it's so incredible. So she went on raving about Philadelphia, and I was kind of like, really? Right. So at that point, it made me kind of reset and look at Philadelphia through new eyes. And when I started to do that, it helped me see what these folks that you refer to on the outside, what they see. And it probably happens in different cities to a certain extent as well. you take it for granted. It's there all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We walk past City Hall and it's no big thing. But I have people that come down and visit my show from other cities. They're like, yo, I seen this crazy building. It had gargoyles and stuff on it. And I'm saying, what is that, City Hall you're talking about? They're like, yeah. I'm like, but we take a remarkable work of architecture like that for granted because it's there all the time. So the historical component that comes with this city that people travel from all over the world to see, many of us take that for granted. The incredible artistic genius that bubbles up from this city, we don't necessarily give it the love that we need to give it. So I think seeing through a new lens, looking at everything that we have to offer creatively, I think that will maybe help folks start to understand, one, the legacy, the shoulders that we stand on. How many people from, again, around the country, around the world, come here? How many firsts have taken place here? So when you start to look at it, I think, on a grander scale of how significant this city is and how significant the creative artistry is, then I think you start to get a little more respect and appreciation for how much, we've brought to the world.
Hey, we've only got a few minutes left, so I want you to chime in on a couple of things I saw, because you had invited me to listen to this Act for Music program. I didn't get a chance to. I did buy a ticket, I might add. But anyway, can you tell us about that? And then you always start your show with Gil Scott-Heron. So in the next couple of minutes, can you briefly talk about both of those? Act for Music and, of course, the great Gil Scott.
Well, the good thing, Rob, is that the Mother's Love Festival that took place on May 9th will live out there until the festival completes. So you still can watch it.
Oh, okay.
All right. All right. So another Philadelphian by way of the UK, Anthony Tidd,
right?
Great bassist, producer. He, along with a few others, brought forth this Act for Music Festival. It is an 8-week festival. That's 8 weeks, 6 days a week. And each day is curated by different artists, producers like myself. So locally, folks like Sumi Tanuka, Emmanuel Wilkins, Orrin Evans, Lauren Talese, along with myself, we're all producing days, but there's folks that are curators from around the world as well. So as I mentioned, May 9th was Mother's Love. It was kind of a tribute the day before to motherly love. But also I'm curating a second day this Saturday coming up the 23rd, which is called A Reason to Live, or ACT, or I should say Art Live. So you take the first letter of each word, A Reason to Live, it's Art Live. So that's another day featuring Jean-Paul Borelli, featuring T.O. Avery, featuring Robin Eubanks and Bria Schoenberg. So ACT, that's ACT, the number 4, music.org. So by all means, check that out.
Only got 20 seconds left.
Gil Scott-Heron, so important to me. That's why my first show was called, Is That Jazz, based off of Gil Scott-Heron. What he's brought forth, the legacy that he has, and what he's offered. And when you talk about hip-hop music and rap, music, hip-hop culture, rap music, Gil Scott-Heron is definitely one of the godfathers and grandfathers of that. So he lives in me. I present him to you.
God bless you, J. Michael, and the Bridge. You've done so much for all of us. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you. I appreciate the time, man. I appreciate the invite, and kudos to you for the efforts that you're making.
Thanks. Peace.